My first two guests on the show this morning are Rina King and Joe Bluen, both from South African Jews for a Free Palestine. Good morning and welcome, ladies.
Good morning, Zahira, and thank you so much for having us, and good morning to your listeners.
Morning, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. We have seen your organization's name come up repeatedly. And for me, I have to ask you, firstly, at the outset, why South African Jews for a Free Palestine?
Well, our organization emerged out of an organization called Stop the JNF. And at the time, there was also an organization called Jewish Voices for a Just Peace. And we felt that we actually needed to align much more strongly with the BDS movement and also with the Free Palestine. We needed to show that's where we were, that was our major focus, and that we collectively organize as Jews, as people that believe in Tikkun Olam, believe in the Jewish religion and in the teachings of the Jewish religion. And it's a home for people that are of the Jewish religion who have a view of healing the world, of human rights, who want to enforce human rights onto the world and ensure that the world that is really consolidated rather than eroded, which is happening right now.
Perfect. Thank you. Joe, I know that, with many people thinking this is a religious aspect, that every Jewish person is very pro-Israel, and we keep getting messages of it being anti-Semitic, whereas in actual fact, Semitic religions are actually three religions, which is Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. So we see the word anti-Semitic being thrown out against anybody or everybody that says anything against the Zionist state. I'm sure you've had much the same said against you, especially being in the position that your organization is in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. And I think, first of all, the term anti-Semitic is actually an anti-Semitic term. The idea of the Semite is a bit of an outdated way of talking about Jews and Muslims and Arabs. It's a bit of an old term. I mean, we would use Judeophobia. Even, a lot of people do. And actually, the idea of Zionism itself is a very anti-Semitic. Sorry, my cat is.
I love it.
Palestine. The idea of anti-Semitism itself, of Zionism itself, is a deeply anti-Semitic idea. I've been reading at the moment the diaries of Theodor Herzl, and how much of the early Zionist thinking came from really, really anti-Semitic Christian Zionism or Gentile Zionism, and very much a part of kind of trying to push the Jews out of Europe and indeed out of South Africa, and into because of the so-called Jewish problem. So the idea of establishing a Jewish state was kind of predicated on that. So I think, first of all, it's a completely flawed allegation. It's dangerous to Jews. It's dangerous to Muslims. It's dangerous to the Palestinian struggle. It's anti-Black. And as to your question, yeah, we get a lot of pushback, but we also get a lot of support, and we keep it moving. You get one rape threat, you get one solidarity moment, and we just have to keep it moving. So yeah.
We've seen your organization coming out in the forefront of many of the protests, putting yourselves out in the front line, and we have seen a growing change in the face of these protests, that it's not just left to a select racial or religious group in South Africa. Have you been seeing much of that same change as well?
Yes, there's a very mixed group that are protesting with us all. It's a human rights issue. It's an issue of land dispossession. It's an issue of absolute. Well, the genocide is basically pushing aside all human rights laws that have been, that Israel has violated practically every single human rights law in war, in peace, in every single respect. And unless we prepare to accept a world with a new norm, we have to protest. We have to object to what is happening in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in apartheid Israel generally. But mostly the images that we see have to actually spur us into saying we will not accept this world. We will not tolerate being part of it. And
Absolutely. I think we've heard many times the never again. And that's why I think for even more reason, nobody can ever sit back now and let this happen while we're watching this play out right in front of our eyes, from the genocide to forced starvation to absolute destruction of an entire infrastructure. That there's absolutely nothing left there.
yeah, absolutely devastating. I mean, and we have to do something. We have to force United States, force Israel somehow, and the protests have done something. At least there is. I mean, it's not that this is the answer, absolutely, but it is a dent in that, also in that relationship between Israel and America, that Biden is finally seeing that it's not in his interests totally to support Israel unequivocally and to support a genocide that is happening. The world has come out and in the streets all over, and it hasn't just been Muslims, and it hasn't just been any particular sect. It has been across the board. It has been a humanitarian crisis in our world, and we are watching it on our screens. And so the grassroots on the world have got together and actually are objecting. And there's a song during our struggle in South Africa that says, we're marching, we've got to be heard, we're going to be seen. And that is correct. We are heard and seen. And I think that some of the governments are getting worried more and more as to how much it is still persisting 7 months later.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't think anything or any efforts are ever in vain, because those voices that currently get raised up also start changing the discourse, because we've got people in political powers who may be saying one thing, but if you look at the ground, the voices are exceptionally different, and people are being very vocal about where they are or what they feel and about what they're seeing. Joe, I know that we've got South African Jews for Free Palestine, but we're also seeing a number of Jewish voices coming up in Israel itself against the Netanyahu regime.
Yeah, absolutely, Zahira. So you are seeing I think that you're seeing globally, and I think you're seeing what is really something that emerged, from 48, but really after 1967, was a very, very concerted effort to and a lot of the Hasbara mechanisms globally to kind of to instill the idea that to be Jewish meant to be Zionist. So, the Jewish day schools were taught that. There were summer camps, there was propaganda, there were societies at universities. I think what we're seeing now is a very profound moment in Jewish history where that myth is being ruptured. So you're seeing it absolutely in Israel. I think I've been reading about, the Israeli Jewish anarchists, Israeli Jewish socialists, and just Israeli Jewish anti-genocide protesters. But also, if you look at what's happening in the US, in the UK, and the US specifically having been a stronghold of a kind of Zionist Judaism because of that special relationship that Rina just mentioned between the US and Israel. I think we're seeing that breaking down. I don't think we're seeing a complete shift to anti-Zionism amongst Jews, whether in Israel or in the States, and I think we're also seeing some reactionary moments. But certainly, if we look at the numbers, our numbers, and how exponentially South African Jews for a Free Palestine has grown, and how globally we're seeing JVP, Jews Against White Supremacy, NAMOD, Black and Jewish Alliance in the UK, this growing consensus that says there's a long history, in fact, that far predates the several hundred years in which Zionism has been a feature of Judaism, millennia in which diasporic Judaism was just the way we were, and we won't stand for this, and not in our name. And so I think what we're seeing is a kind of profound rupture, where this consensus of Judaism and Zionism is literally, I was trying to think of how I'd imagine it visually. It's like unsettling from underneath. It's crumbling at the edges. And I think that's we feel it very strongly.
Perfect. We're going to be taking a very quick ad break and getting back to a very interesting discussion with Joe Bluen and Rina King. Please stay tuned.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
This Ramadan, spread the love with Sunshine D margarine, the perfect addition to your seri table for spreading, baking, and cooking. Sunshine D is rich in essential vitamin A, E, and D, and is the tastiest way to get their day or night started. Sunshine D. Tastes nice, no lies.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the M.A. Motala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Amoti, Imtalumi, Botshabelo, and Castile. Donate your zakat and lillah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076 321 0650, Yusuf Mohammadi 072 259 3457, or the SADN head office 031 304 8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050 856 294 for your zakat, or 050 879 790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
Are you looking for a cross-border road transport company that is committed in achieving high safety standards, who is fast and efficient, and also excel in customer service? Gardi Global specializes in cross-border transport from South Africa to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi. Gardi Global, situated at 10 Daniel Road, Benrose, Johannesburg. For inquiries, contact our trained staff on 011 614 3108 or email info@gardiglobal.co.za. Safe long haul into Africa is our business. Gardi Global Transport.
Abu Hurairah narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The best of you are those who feed others." This Ramadan, join Penny Appeal South Africa in changing lives through Feed Our World. Provide food packs, hot meals, and sustainable food gardens. Make it count. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573.
Alhamdulillah, Muslims in South Africa finally have access to a fully Sharia-compliant emergency medical takaful and wellness product. As an industry first, Emergivac Sharia offers up to 575,000 Rand emergency medical cover at a private hospital for you and your family. Plus, you receive 24-hour access to private ambulance evacuation, 24-hour armed response services, roadside home, and even appliance assistance services. Emergivac Sharia offers you and your family priceless emergency medical cover at a fraction of the cost of traditional private healthcare. Simply download the Emergivac app and register online or SMS Sharia to 40777. Emergivac Sharia, for when serious emergencies require seriously fast response.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to News and Views with me, Zahira Bam Ismail. We've been chatting to Rina King and Joe Bluen, both from South African Jews for a Free Palestine, and we're talking about the sense of identity. And Joe, to your last comment you made prior to our ad break, I think if anything, standing up and saying this doesn't take away any part of being Jewish. If anything, as Rina also pointed out earlier, it's staying stronger to your principles and to your religious belief systems.
Zahira, I think you're absolutely right. First of all, I think anyone, watching what's going on in Gaza, watching what has been going on in Palestine since 48, I don't think one needs any specific religious or and I think you could be an atheist. I think you could be anything and stand up against what's going on.
Interesting.
So it's just it's beyond. There's this. Who was it? He said, "There's no poetry after Auschwitz." I don't even know how we begin to think of this. So yes. But you are absolutely right, that every single Jewish principle, not every single, of course, all religions have some problems. It's not like anyone's perfect, but the key Jewish principles, and I'm talking about the actual Jewish principles, not the way they've been corrupted by the fascist Israeli regime and its accomplices, are rested in principles of justice. So, as Rina mentioned in the beginning, one of our key principles is tikkun olam, which actually sort of means repair the world. It's I think about a 14th or 15th century, it kind of came to the fore as an idea. And many people are looking at the idea of repair as resistance in the rabbinical interpretations, so moving it away from a kind of stitching to a kind of stitching as part of resistance. We look at one of our key principles is tzedek, which means justice. And the idea of to be Jewish, your key, you could eat a bacon sandwich if you wanted to. I mean, not that you should, but the most important thing is that you stand up for justice, and that is the obligation from God. And so there is nothing incompatible about. In fact, we're a diverse collective, but many of us stand up for Palestine because we're human, because we can't bear to watch what's going on. But also many of us are informed by a deeply Jewish spiritual ethos and moral ethos that is guided by Jewish principles that have been around for millennia.
Absolutely. The other question that I have is, I actually decided to look at a few other sites and read things to see from a different perspective that where is this coming from? And the one thing that I've picked up very strongly is this fear mongering that is taught so early on that if you don't attack them, they're going to come and take everything from you. They're going to come and kill you. They're going to destroy everything you have or or that you take care of or you hold dear to you. And it's this innate fear built into each individual that they're coming for me, they're going to get me. So, Rina, my question to you is, do you think not living there and being part of a South African diaspora has actually been able to give you a step back to see from a different perspective and not just to believe but blindly what's been taught to you?
We all choose our echo chambers, as I call them. We all choose where we actually place ourselves ultimately. Although, we as Jews, even I didn't go to a Jewish day school, but I was weaned on the Holocaust. We weaned on being victims. This past festival, Purim, the Haman wanted to kill all the Jews. And people came and saved, Queen Esther and Ahasuerus came and saved the Jews. We told again and again and again that we are victims, that people want to eliminate us, and people hate us. So we are weaned on the fact that so-called Arabs hate us, and that's why they're trying to drive us into the sea. Since 1948, they're trying to drive us into the sea. So it's all lies that people are being fed, and people in South Africa are being fed those lies and still believing them, having gone through apartheid and understood what lies we were told during apartheid and how people were made to fear Black people during apartheid. And that was actually completely unfounded. And still, people still believe that the whole conflict is because Muslim Arab people who are violent and whose and people are taught that the underlying religion has violence, and we all know that's incorrect, but this is the belief within the Jewish community here and within Israel itself, and there is genuine fear. I have practically all my family in Israel, but and some family here, and friends and past friends that actually have genuine fear that Israel wants, that the Arab nations want to drive Israel and Jews into the sea. And it's such gaslighting, because if you see pictures of 1948, when 750,000 Palestinians were expelled, people don't know that. People in Israel today do not know about the Nakba and have not seen the pictures of actually Palestinians literally getting on rubber duckies and going into the sea. That's what people still see themselves as victims, that these Hamas is coming to murder all of Israel and drive Israel into the sea, and if it's not them, then it's us.
Yes.
And that's how they justify killing and wounding and amputations of more than 100,000 people, more than 10% of the population has been, and just the devastation and the starvation and everything like that. It's just unbelievable that people do not actually see that the truth of the history, and that it is against land dispossession, again, that Israel wants to commit a suicide. Israel wants to demolish Gaza, wants to demolish the memory, wants to demolish the culture. And there's an amazing strength amongst the Palestinians. I mean, when you see videos coming out of Gaza and how people actually see that they need to rebuild and they need to reinstall their culture and their life as Palestinians, and who they are, is so strong, and is so, the simud is just so honorable. But how do you get over these the lies that are being told in the Hasbara, the propaganda machine that Israel has, and the Jewish community here reinforces? I mean, what the chief rabbi spews out is just vitriolic and not based on history. It's based on emotional. It's using anti-Semitism to try and ward off an attack on anti-Zionism, which is anti-colonialism, anti-settler colonialism, and actually anti-human rights at the moment.
You're so right. And, I often think that, sometimes when I hear people, them talking, I often wonder if it's just the narrative that they've heard their whole life that you actually start believing it. And then to the point of saying that, exactly as you said earlier, it's them and it's us. So it's either going to end up being them or us, and it can't be either both together at all. You have to choose your side. The one thing, though, when you're saying that, very often we've read it's too complicated, you don't understand it. And I think this also reinforces that people shouldn't be reading, you shouldn't be going to find out, stay where you are. It's much more than you actually need to know or are capable of knowing. And we diminish people's levels of intelligence of being able to go out there and say, I actually am able to read more. Having said that, you also mentioned, Rina, about echo chambers, and I agree with the sentiment. Sometimes I think when we post up, I wonder if we're talking to the same people who believe the same thing all the time, and there's no change in that rhetoric. However, I do feel that social media, especially now, has changed this picture entirely. I mean, Joe, prior to this, and exactly to what Rina was saying, many people didn't know what was happening. Many of us didn't see those pictures from the 1948 Nakba. We didn't see the pictures of people leaving on these rubber duckies on ships and on boats and being put out to sea. We didn't see the devastation that had occurred. We heard snippets of it. All of a sudden, the narrative has changed, because regardless of what the media is showing, people took to their phones and created their own media. Now that echo chamber has become a very global echo chamber, are you seeing trickle effects of your conversations, not just to the same people, but with people who are willing to actually say something doesn't sit right, something doesn't feel right, let me see it from another perspective?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. And I think there's so I think, first of all, and I agree with Rina, I also think it's, on the one hand, deeper and less deep than that at the same time. I think that it's become, all cultures, and everyone needs origin stories. Everyone needs stories that make us human, or it can be Muhammad, it can be Abraham, it can be even kind of contemporary culture stories, of where we go together, where we have what was told on our bar mitzvahs, etc. And I think that Israel's story has transcended from lies to becoming kind of entrenched in a mythology. And I think that's breaking. And I think part of the resistance to that is that it's not just a set of lies, but it's been people's entire lives, and they are shifting radically and rapidly, and it's really powerful. I think to your question, I think social media has changed everything in many ways. Although I think it's a new technology of an old technology, it's the new printing press or whatever that is. And at the same time, I think at this stage, there's also a lot of people who actually do know what's going on, who actually don't have religious fears. I'm not, I think there's a heterogeneity of people. So a lot of people who don't have religious fears, who work with Muslim people in their offices, who work with Black, I think, but actually choose to hold on to the mythology because it's a justification. And I think that's what's starting to crack. And even, if we look at the Purim story that Rina mentioned, key to that is the idea of Amalek, right? And this mythical biblical creature of Amalek in the shape of who was called Haman in the Megillat Esther. And now the way that the government is using that to say Haman is Hamas, the Nazis were Haman and Haman is the Amaleks. And we saw that in the South African ICJ case. So I think there is a level on which there is genuine fear. I think there is a level on which, and I'm going to say this, and maybe this is a bit controversial to say, but I don't think so, because we focus so much on the Nazi Holocaust in Europe. But we don't actually give ourselves the space to properly mourn our dead, the space to properly honor those who went through the camps. It was a terrible thing. Instead, the Nazi Holocaust has to become something that is used as a political point-scoring thing, which is a deep dishonor to our ancestors who went through the camps. And we take that out. And that has been taken out on Palestinians and Muslims, a European Zionist colonial project that has found its anti-Semitism being directed to Muslims and to Palestinians.
Absolutely, Joe. And I think it deeply dishonors and disregards the many families who've gone through that and who've experienced that without and just using it almost as a tool to push your own agenda through. And that takes away from so much of that many people had experienced. Rina and Joe, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I think we could have a much longer discussion. Unfortunately, we are short on time. I've truly enjoyed it and being able to get your perspectives on this and to see your positions, and all the best to both of you for the stands that you take, for recognizing the humanity around you, and for pushing forward. And hopefully your echo chambers become broader and more global and have far more reach than where it is even now. So thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. And we urge people to phone other radio stations and other TV places and get and actually engage in the talk radios, bringing up what is happening in Gaza and what the truth is behind the conflict.
Thank you to both of you for your truth and for bringing it to us. That's Rina King and Joe Bluen, both from South African Jews for Free Palestine. A wonderful start to our morning. We'll be taking a quick ad break.
Thanks for